Hey guys, Brent Hull Wednesday design video. Going back to Nebraska to look at that period revival house. Going to work on the back side. I'm going to work on some porch details, so check that out. Okay guys, this is part two of the house in Nebraska. That's that kind of the period revival house. And we're showing a couple different things. It was this house, if you remember, and you know, we reduced the size of the garage because it was a little bit hulking, which allowed us to open up the windows to the pantry, change around, put a big sweep in that kind of cat's back, or the cat sweep, or cat slide. I've heard it called a couple of things, but you know, the Wayne edge boards there. So a mix of materials, stucco, timber, kind of a cool thing. So when you get to the back, and I worked out a couple different things for the railing. We'll talk about that in a sec, but I got some different ideas there. But essentially, I redlined the sides. And if you look at things like, you know, this, there's just nothing. No old house has this, okay? No old house has the big open light windows, and I get it. It's natural light, right? And this isn't really a dominant side of the house, but I mean, these windows are complete disconnect for the feel of what we're trying to do here. I'm fixing the garage doors. This is kind of a colonial revival cottage style door, because you've got, you know, the small panels, which is kind of, they've switched out a raised panel here with kind of a siding thing, but this little arch is what really is throwing me off. We don't have any segmented arches on this house, and so we shouldn't put those in. I've gone back with more of a 1920s door, and you can get these from manufacturers with a 3-panel so that your wood can be applied to them. You can get more light in the upper thing, but this is really going to help convey kind of that look. When you do a door and it's just a big 5-inch style, 5-inch rail, you know, all the way around with a big open light, it just screams to me new. And historically in the 20s, you know, this would have been panelized, and then you'd have had lights up here. And so I'm changing it back to that, just kind of giving it that charm, changing up these doors, or suggesting changing up these doors. It would be better, this is over the kitchen sink, you know, this would be better. You know, ideally it's a split casement that goes in between here, that would go in between the window, maybe with some divided lights. And so I like that more, right? And you know, this proportion of this window is just kind of a mess. And so I'm fixing things like that. It's just really window sizes and window story that they convey, I'm fixing. When you get into the back of the house, and you'll see big windows in the garage. I don't like windows in the garage that compete with the size of the windows in the house. It makes it look like this is part of the house. I'd like this to look like this is part of the garage. Remember, this is smaller, so our garage dormer isn't going to be quite as large. They got huge windows, almost floor to ceiling windows. We took out, after messing with the dormer on the front thing, this went away. And so, you know, we're playing with some different styles. Now, you can see that I've put divided light windows where all these open light windows, you know, there is no precedent for a big open light window like that. These big windows on the back, you're going to walk into that house, and if you have ground to floor windows with 4 lights in them that big, you're not going to feel like you walked into that little English cottage on the front. You know, you're not there anymore. You're somewhere else. You're in New Home City. And so we want to fix that. I've tried to manage the amount of timbering I've put in here. And so I've just put timbering, except for this little kick out, which is a kind of a sunroom. Everything else is just the timbers around the windows on the back side. Remember, on the front side, we've got this stone section, which is what, you know, this area is here, and you know how we deal with that. So you can do it with stone around the windows, or you can do it with timber. I've got timbers in here, but when we go to the back side, I've used a little bit more timber. And then I've changed up this window to have transoms with leaded glass, and then a large window. So you still get the same amount of light, but it's just told in kind of an English story. And so, you know, what I've done here is I'm showing, you know, 3 different ways of doing the cottage on the back, or the porch on the back. There's a number of different ways to do this, and you'll see that, you know, what they've got is just kind of timbered with brackets supporting this porch or deck or whatever it is. And I guess I want them to, you know, upgrade those materials if we can. so that they're just a little bit better. And so this is what I'm showing. I'm showing if we do timbering, that our opportunity is to do a couple different types of bracket styles, but mortise and tenon and maybe even peg these would be helpful. I think the railing that comes up on top of this, if it is timbered like that, would be great to have some kind of, because when you're standing up on the porch, when you're up here, standing, you know, looking down, looking at the thing, you don't see any of this, what's going on here. So you need to create a visual reminder when you're on top that you're kind of on a rustic porch. And the way I assume this area would be done would be that it would be a concrete poured deck, you know, stone, and then this would be underneath, maybe. I don't know whether they're planning on doing a wood deck. The second way of doing it would be to do stone columns with these lintels, let-in timbered lintels over top. And, you know, one way of doing these old things would be to do an iron railing with a little shield detail or something like that in there. But essentially what I'm showing is I'm showing alternating half-inch bars, solid bars, with every other one having a twist in it. That's a very 1920s early kind of period kind of way of doing it. And then this is just showing that these arches are all stone with kind of the stone pedestal, maybe wood in between to lighten it up, but showing it three different ways. And so what this is meant to show is that, you know, on the back side here with this railing is that nicer way of dealing with it here, simpler way of dealing with it here. But if we play around with those, you know, period details, we can make this much more charming. So I like this more than this, right? I like, you know, the charm and the architectural detailing we put in here. I like these things to tell a story, kind of where we are and what's going on. And so these are all details that I think will help it quite a bit. Now, one comment I get on YouTube quite a bit is, you know, what about cost? What about cost? Now, this is a new house, okay? So they can manage some of those costs with the new house in that we're not tearing out a dormer, we're not doing anything, we're building from scratch. The windows, I'm not really changing the quantity, I'm changing the type and the size, divided light versus open light. I suspect a divided light window is going to be a little bit more expensive than an open light window, but you know, certainly for the value of what you're getting with this architectural detailing, I think that it's worth that cost. And so I think simple things like how you do the stonework is going to be important, how you do the timbering and timber lintels are all going to matter. So a bunch of different details, a bunch of different ways to think about this, you know, period revival house. But let me know what you guys think. Better windows, divided light, and those porch details, kind of a hierarchy of materials really can help give the proper feel, because that's such a big deck on the back of there. It's just an important detail to get right. Let me know what you guys think. I read all the comments. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.